Oh, yeah. Okay. Can everyone see this?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. I haven't spotlighted. I'm going to do that now. Okay, spotlight for everyone. Fantastic. Okay, right. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are going to be effectively handing out the license to build a third base Hamikdash, because we're going to work out who, how, where, when, and everything, but ironically, how much. So let's do this together. So a quick revision of last week. We saw there seemed to be two views. Let me do them in basic, and then let's build a bit of a kind of depth beneath it. View number one. Actually, does anyone, I'll give it to you guys. Does anyone remember?
Yep.
Remember what
You're
the
talking about it floating down. That view, is that what you mean?
pardon?
Do you mean when it's floating down?
Yeah, exactly. I thought you'd remember. That's the easiest one to remember, right? Yeah. So whose view was that? Go on. Who said that?
I'm going with
Rashi,
Rashi.
Rashi or the Rambam?
Yeah, I'm going with
Rashi.
Rashi.
You sure?
I know, but I got 50-50. I'm going to stick.
Yeah, very good. If I had a teacher who, this brilliant, funny teacher, actually still going, Blind Horror. If he'd give you a 50-50 choice and you get the wrong one, he'd say close.
I
Yeah, inimitable in his inimitable style, or nearly. Anyway, so yes, Rashi's opinion was that the Beis Hamikdash will be lowered ever so gently from Shemaim, the third Beis Hamikdash. Where did Rashi get it from? So we'll see. There's a Medrash, which is his proof text, his source. But by and large, the Gemara that he was commenting on lends itself to such an interpretation. How so? Because to cut a long story short, the Gemara was dealing with a certain possibility whereby the Beis Hamikdash would be suddenly built, and people wouldn't either realize or have time to kind of notice, or well, to replan and to rebook all their holidays to Dubai and the like, and therefore the Omer offering would be delayed, and therefore the rabbis added extra time to wait to eat your new grain. If that was might be a bit too esoteric or whatever, but I can go through all of it. I think it's a bit too technical for this forum, and I don't think it's going to add. But again, the Gemara itself basically lent itself to the Beis Hamikdash suddenly being built. Right? Rashi takes a lead off that and says, "That's suddenly being built." Okay, how can the Gemara talk about building the Beis Hamikdash at night, which was the case the Gemara was dealing with? Must be that the Issur, the prohibition to build the Beis Hamikdash at night, only applied to man-made Beis Hamikdashes, right? Built properly like they used to, whereas the third Beis Hamikdash is going to be a cheap import. No, it's not going to be a cheap import. It's going to be dropped or lowered or whatever it is, by Hashem, and therefore that's all going to be good and fantastic. Okay, that was the background to Rashi. Now, last week, and I was a little bit of a rush, I apologize. We saw the Rambam. What did our Rambam say? So let's go through the Rambam once more inside. The Rambam says over here, you can see in the text, the beautiful text, if you don't mind me saying, that is on your screen, as follows. HaMelech HaMashiach, remember he's a king. Osid, he is going to, in the future, La'amod, get up, Lahachzir, and return Malchus David, the Davidic dynasty, Leyoshna, to its former glory, Lamemshala Harishona, to the original, what's the word, sovereignty. Yeah, that's what's going to happen in the future. Ovana Hamikdash, he will also build the Beis Hamikdash, Makabetz Nidchei Yisrael, and he will gather those who are dispersed. Okay, even southern hemisphere. So he'll build the Beis Hamikdash and he'll gather everyone who's dispersed. Right now, clearly his CV is to build the Beis Hamikdash. That's his job description, not CV. That's his job description. Going to build the Beis Hamikdash, right? Now, it's not as we pointed out last week, right at the end. It's not that the only fellow with a chisel, will be the Mashiach, right? It can't be that because it just practically doesn't seem to work, right? And it's not that Hashem lowers it and Mashiach puts like the finishing touches on it, right? Because the Rambam says, Ein bonin Mikdash belayla. This is quite important. The Rambam is dealing with all Batei Mikdash, meaning first, second, and he doesn't exclude the third. And remember, he's writing a halacha book after the second Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So he can't be precluding the third Beis Hamikdash, right? So he says, Ein bonim Beis Hamikdash b'layla. You're not allowed to build the Beis Hamikdash at night. Shneimar, as it says, of the Yom HaKim Mishkan. because it says he put the Mishkan up during the day, which wasn't just a narrative. Clearly, it's more, because otherwise, why give the detail that it was done during the day? It means beyond Makimin, you're only allowed to put up the Beis Hamikdash during the day, below Belayla, not at night. Okay. Now, already we know that disagrees with Rashi, because Rashi used that and limited it to the first two temples. Right? Rashi said, well, the third one, it's from heaven. We don't need to worry about this anymore. Well, the Rambam has not done that, right? Okay. When do you work? Oskin bebinyan me'alos hashachar. You build from sunrise or dawn, sorry, ad tesakachavim until nightfall. Right? So it's not sunrise, sunset, musicals aside. It is from what they call dawn until when the stars come out, until nightfall. That's longer, right? Okay. Dawn, Alas Shachar is at the first light. Don't know if again, is that dawn in English? I think it is dawn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when, having lived in the old city for at least 2 years, it's when the first Muslim prayer is. If you want to time it. Anyway, okay, V'akol chayavim, everyone is obligated livnos, to build, sa'ed, and to support ba'atzman, themselves, in other words, their physical bodies, of a mamonam, and maybe or with their money. In other words, either physically get involved or financially get involved. Anoshim v'noshim, both men and women, can Mikdash Hamidbar, like the Beis Hamikdash of the wilderness. Right? Okay, which was known as the Mishkan. Right? So you got to get involved. Right, everyone, men, women, doesn't take children, because ein mevatlim tinokos shel beis rabban lebinyan. Those who are called tinokos shel beis rabban. Anyone know what that phrase means?
No.
It's a lovely phrase. It means babies of the rabbi's house, which basically means young Torah students. It's like a phrase. And there's young Torah scholars, they're not scholars, students, children who are learning, like Levinian. They are not allowed to be interrupted from their studies, even to build the Beis Hamikdash. Interesting, right? Yeah. In other words, if the only people who are available are these young kids who are learning in Cheder or whatever, no, they go back to their studies and the Beis Hamikdash waits.
But that seems to imply that anyone else who are older than these young kids, even if they were studying, would have to stop their studies to build the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah,
quite possibly. Yeah. If it's limited to age, then yes. Yeah, and it's quite understood. I mean, these are formative years. Right? Therefore, and we treat it very, very seriously. Interesting. Yeah. I can just imagine the modern equivalent of a mother coming into a teenage son's room, playing on his computer, playing whatever latest game, Fortnite, as they tell me. And she's like, "Come on, Beis Hamikdash is here. Come on, get up, get building." It says, "No, I'm on my computer." Anyway, it won't be like that, don't worry. So anyway, so the Beis Hamikdash, so you can't, those who are learning Torah, the youngsters, they keep on learning. Ve'ein binyan Beis Hamikdash dochei Yom Tov, and you're not allowed to build the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Tov. Right, so whilst the I'm playing on my computer is not an excuse, but the I'm eating matzah at the moment is. Right, you're not allowed to build the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Tov, presumably. Actually, I don't presume. I don't know whether that includes or precludes Chol HaMoed. Right? Meaning the word Yom Tov in our phonetics tends to mean, in our kind of what we normally speak, tends to only mean Yom Tov, meaning the first 2 days of Yom Tov. It doesn't tend to include Chol HaMoed. In the Rambam's parlance, the word Yom Tov often meant 7 days.
Why would we need to specify this? We already know you can't build on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So why do you need to say it here? Isn't that obvious?
No, because good point. No, because the Rambam is codifying the halacha here. We might know it from previous Gemaras and particularly whatever, but the Rambam's job here in this book, in his Mishnah Torah, which literally means the repetition of the Torah, is to codify all the laws from the basically everything.
Yeah, but that's exactly my point. It's already in the book, his Mishnah Torah. You can't build on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Why would you think you can make an exception here?
How do you know you can't build in Shabbos? Where do you see you can't build in Shabbos Yom Tov other than here?
Isn't that one of the malachas, the 39 malachas?
Sorry. Yes, but meaning, yeah, but maybe there's an exception for building the Beis Hamikdash. Maybe what you can't build is your garden fence. How do you know you can't build the Beis Hamikdash?
Okay.
Meaning you're right, the forbidden activities came from the Mishkan. That's totally true, right? But maybe there would be an exception in building the Beis Hamikdash. I don't know, right? But you do know, so does the Rambam, that you can't. So it does need to be said. And so I don't think the Rambam assumes that level of background when he's writing. Okay, good. So that is that. So again, we have here, what am I getting from here? You see from here, according to the Rambam, that everyone needs to get involved, right? So clearly, if everyone's getting involved, it's not just Mashiach, otherwise what does everyone need to do? I mean, there seems to be some, common involvement. So it sounds like Mashiach will oversee and will do a lot of the schlepping.
What's the issue with building at night? Like, why are we making such a big deal of it?
No idea.
Okay.
No idea. really no idea. But it's just one of the laws. I mean, add it to the list. There are various laws about the Beis Hamikdash. No idea. No, I don't mean in a deep level. I just never looked into it. No idea.
Are there other things that we're told not to build or construct at night specifically?
That's a really good point. I guess the general rule would be, if you're just building for the sake of something being there, it shouldn't make a difference when you build it, right? A shul, whenever you build it, right? Or a mikveh, just get it done, right? It's interesting, you're right, that there are laws in the building. That would be quite demonstrative. You understand, right? Yeah, that's quite indicative of something. There's something about not just the fact that it's built, bottom line, but the actual building itself seems to be holy or whatever, a mitzvah, hence there being regulations in doing so. But it's not something stupid like don't disturb the neighbors. I can guarantee that.
Are you not going to build or start building the sukkah at night?
Yes, there's a custom to start building the sukkah when Yom Kippur goes out.
So could it be sort of
interesting.
Kind of the opposite of that, something temporary?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I hear that. I think that's more because we go from one mitzvah to another. I think that's just, if Yom Kippur went out during the day, we'd start building during the day. Although one of the most glorious things about living in Yerushalayim, certainly a religious neighborhood therein, is on sukkahs. All the sukkahs are like near each other, and you hear people singing and talking, whatever. And the absolute downside is that from after Yom Kippur until like midnight, you hear like bang, 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 bang. You kind of like hammers everywhere. And also remember, Israelis have very different sleep times to us. So it's like bang, car, stop with the racket. It's a mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah to keep me awake. Okay, so there we are. Now, where do these come from? In other words, where does Rashi get it from? For example, that Hashem's going to drop it down, or where does the Rambam get it from that we will build it? They didn't wake up and just say, "Oh, that sounds nice. That sounds nice." Where did they get it from? So let's have a look at. There are a few proof texts, but I want to show you one or two just so you see. So one of them for Rashi is as follows. It goes as follows: Mikdash Hashem kanu yadecha. That's a verse at the end of the Shira in Beshalach. It says we'll be learning it. When is it? Next week. Chaviv Beis Hamikdash ne'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. The Beis Hamikdash is beloved before Hashem. Because when Hashem created the world, right? God created the world with one hand. My hand created the world. But when Hashem will build the Beis Hamikdash, it's going to be with two hands. As it says, your hands, plural, will establish the Mikdash. I forget the one hands and two hands. The point is that it's talking about when Hashem will build the Beis Hamikdash. It's one point for Rashi. Yeah? Now, the Rambam sounds, one second. Let's see if we can find one for the Rambam. Here. Mashiach will build the Beis Hamikdash, right? So here is a medrash elsewhere, and it says as follows: Uri Tzafon, which means wake up those in the north. That's a pasuk somewhere. When those in exile from the north will wake up, Yavo, they will come, B'yachno, and they will camp, B'daram, in the south. It's a pasuk. When Gog will wake up, who's in the north, Yava v'yipol b'daram, he will fall in battle in the south. Okay, I'm going to skip to this part. I've kind of failed to highlight. Melech HaMashiach, Mashiach Shenotan B'Tzafon, who is placed in the north, Yavo v'yivne Beis HaMikdash, he will come and build the Beis HaMikdash, Notan B'Daram, which is placed in the south. So again, here you see the role of Mashiach in building the Beis HaMikdash. So basically, each one has a source. Everyone has a significant prior backing. But I think there's something deeper here, if you don't mind me saying, and it's as follows. There is a Rashi elsewhere, which is really interesting. So the Gemara in Sukkah says they're going to be, oh no, sorry, I gave you too much information. The Gemara in Sukkah says there's going to be 4 carpenters. Yeah? Talk about touching wood, joke. Yeah? They're going to be 4 carpenters. Pardon?
That's all right, just being
Too
silly.
silly.
Just ignore me.
I hear. You're surely not referring to a band.
No.
Could
Just
have been.
checking.
Yeah.
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 Just
There were 2
checking. All right.
carpenters. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so they're going to be four carpenters. Yeah. Yeah. So who are these carpenters? So the Gemara actually doesn't explain who they are, right? It's based on a pasuk actually. Zechariah in his prophecy says, "I saw 4 carpenters." So the question is who they are. So Rashi says, "Umnim," they are craftsmen. And who are the 4? So 2 of them he identifies in the beginning, and he says Mashiachim. Both of them are the Mashiachs, meaning Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. Just ignore that concept for the moment. Mashiach ben Yosef is there to pave the way for the real Mashiach. So they need to be craftsmen. Why? Says Rashi, Lebinyan Beis HaMikdash, because they're going to need to build the Beis HaMikdash. Now, one sec, that's foul play. Referee. Rashi was the bastion of the viewpoint that that Hashem will build the Beis HaMikdash.
Yeah.
Right? And he also said it was actually already made. Now he says Mashiach needs to be a craftsman. And it's not that he needs to repair it. Although it's very Jewish to think that Hashem will build this like perfect Beis HaMikdash and he'll lower it down for us. And then we'll say, well, that could do with a bit of improvement, we'll sand that down, we'll make this a little bit nicer. So it's none of that. Mamish, none of that, right? It says over here that Mashiach will need to build the Beis HaMikdash. So what's going on? I hear you all asking. Good question?
Good question.
There's a good question. Okay. So I want to tell you what I think the secret is, and I've heard this from others. It's a beautiful concept, which is like this. Basically, there's no argument, I'm sorry to say. There's no argument to Rashi and the Rambam. There's just 2 different ways Mashiach can come. Do you remember once upon a time we talked about these 2 tracks of Ita and Achishena? Either Mashiach can come the Ita, which means there's a deadline. History has a deadline. Or Achishena means history will be moved forwards.
Right. It was the idea of if we sort of bring it on ourselves, then that's better. But if we don't, then it's going to happen anyway.
Yes, 100%. Achishena means we're going to merit it earlier. Let's use that. A bit simplistically use that. Yeah. So not only does it mean it's going to move forward, but actually there are 2 different ways Mashiach can arrive, each one corresponding to these tracks. Mashiach in its correct time means that it's going to have to be a natural process. The Gemara says Ita is when Mashiach rides in on a donkey. Nothing supernatural about that. Achishena, meaning moved early, is Mashiach in clouds. In other words, it's going to be a miraculous, loads of stuff happening, Mashiach coming early. Right? Therefore, explains the Maram Shik like this. The Rambam and Rashi are not disagreeing, they're just detailing 2 different ways Mashiach can come. If Mashiach comes in its correct time, that's a natural process, we're going to have to build the Beis HaMikdash. Right? It's a mitzvah, it's a good thing, but it's not going to be miraculous. If Mashiach comes early, Achishena, then Hashem will lower it down from heaven. If we'll merit it, Hashem will do that. Right? We'll still have our mitzvah, I guess, because our general mitzvah observance has caused and precipitated the Beis HaMikdash being built. Right? But nevertheless, Achishena means it will be a miraculous process, and therefore Hashem will build it. Right? And therefore Rashi mentioned both options. The Rambam admittedly only mentioned one, namely us building it, because as Rav Nebenzahl from the Old City, that the Rambam is writing a book of halacha. He's not interested in talking about, what will happen if Hashem builds it. He's interested in detailing our obligations should we build it. Right? And therefore, effectively, there's no argument. It's a nice thing, right? We like it when there's peace.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's kind of basically how it works. And it's funny, there's actually quite a little bit of literature, there's quite a little bit of literature that suggests on kind of some level that when we do mitzvot, and we are, so to speak, building the spiritual edifice that is the Beis Hamikdash. And there's kind of quite a nice little literature. Who was it? I think the Shla once remarked that the reason when Tishba falls on Shabbos, the reason why we push it off to Sunday is because you can't cry on Shabbos. And if you're crying over the Beis Hamikdash, those tears build the Beis Hamikdash, and you can't build on Shabbos. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like nice, almost homiletic, but a certain way of saying, right? I heard the phrase, every mitzvah is a brick in the wall, or a brick in the temple, kind of thing. So it's the same kind of concept. Look, please God, hopefully through learning about the Beis Hamikdash, will hasten its arrival. And next week we're going to look at the final element here, which is it's quite an English piece, but it's quite nice over, which is basically what are we missing? In other words, what are we missing in the Beis Hamikdash? What are the things that the Beis Hamikdash was like, that was part of daily life, that we no longer have? And then please God, we'll start our new unit as well. Okay, people?
Thank
Okay,
you.
Shkayach.
All right. Shkayach, everyone. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
week.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, EC.